Hello beautiful people, and welcome to the latest Perception Trainers video where we are going to continue our discussion of why you hate yourself and the kind of big overarching reason why this is important and how to really get on this self-love journey and what it's going to look like when you make some of these kind of like big revelations. So if you haven't already done so, please go back and watch the last video I made on why you hate yourself, part 1. And in that video, we essentially just covered, that you are here to be the next evolution of society. You're here to be a next expansion. You're here to do something that's never been done before. And this feeds directly into why you hate yourself, okay? And so in today's video, I'm going to go way more in depth on why this you being a unique individual who's here to do and be something that's never been before makes you hate yourself, and what the kind of, like I say, overarching theme is for all of humanity that hates itself right now. And then essentially, like why you're so afraid to love parts of yourself, why you have self-sabotaging behaviors, why you have addiction. Like all of this can be boiled down into a pretty simple explanation. And the remedy, again, is simple, not easy, okay? So in the last video, again, we talked about how you are here to be a unique individual, and that uniqueness is actually what makes you hate yourself, okay? And right now, I really want to go into this idea that literally every single one of us was born into a family that was also trained by their parents. So we were born to caregivers, or we were adopted by caregivers, or we were taken on by someone raised us. Even if we were in foster homes or didn't have a solid these are my parents, these are my caretakers. We were all raised by culture. We were all raised by society. We had teachers, we had TV, we had friends. We have all been affected by the people that surrounded us, okay? Unless you were raised completely in isolation all by yourself. If that's true, this video isn't going to apply to you, okay? We were all affected by the culture, the society, the rules of the caregivers and the people that were around us when we were growing up as children. And now, again, what we need to understand, okay, is that fundamentally, the human consciousness at this point on the planet is not very advanced. And I don't mean that as a judgment. I mean that as if we really look at how things on this planet work right now with regards to how humanity functions, okay? The number one law is we want everything to be the same and everything to be predictable. We want everyone to fit into a specific box. We like trends, we like rules, we like guidelines. We are looking for the how to do it right. But this is not really what we're looking for, okay? We think we're looking to culture and to government and to the church and to our parents and to all these education, whatever, to give us the rules for how to be good. We really believe that that's what we're doing. When the truth is, what we have is a fundamental misunderstanding, okay? This is the root of everything. So I really want you to hear me on this. We have a fundamental misunderstanding that survival and acceptance by the tribe are the same thing, okay? And this, again, has its roots way, 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 way back in the beginning of human history, when humans were discovering that nature was unpredictable. We couldn't figure out how nature was going to work. Weather was going to happen. Famine was going to happen. All of these things were happening. We felt threatened by a world we didn't understand. Okay, so as the human mind was developing its capacity for pattern recognition, before we could predict weather, before we had all this technology that we now have that allows us to live in relative ease, I mean, in some cases, we've taken ourselves out of the food chain, okay? That's definitely happened. Human beings are thriving in a way that no other species on the planet is thriving, in the sense that we can live and we can populate and we can live completely out of alignment with what is right for us and still survive and all of these things. And we've conquered weather and we've conquered famine, and we've, in a lot of ways, okay? Not totally, obviously. We still get taken down by hurricanes. We still have lava explosions. Like, there's still things that happen. But we understand reality to a degree that we never have before. And, but in those old days, in that old times when we didn't understand how things work, when we were still developing pattern recognition, when we didn't have technology, we didn't have all these things, being a part of a tribe was how we survived, okay? And this was programmed into our reptilian brain, that acceptance by the tribe and survival were one and the same thing. Now, at the same time, okay, evolutionarily, even if we don't count that at all, okay, when you were a child, when you were a baby, when you were a small child, you were dependent upon whoever was around you that was going to take care of you for survival. You could not meet your own needs, right? When we're babies and we're born, we're helpless. We're literally completely at the whim of nature. Like, we are essentially, in a way, born into this primitive mindset, into this primitive way of being, where we don't understand how the world works. We don't have skills or technology in our bodies in order to defend ourselves or feed ourselves or clean ourselves or provide for ourselves in any way. We're completely primitive. We don't know how things work. We don't know anything. And we are relying upon the tribe to keep us alive, right? And we stay in this dependent state for an incredibly long time, comparatively to other animals. Yes? So this is actually the initial trauma that every single one of us, as a human being, incurs in their lifetime, okay? We are born helpless. We are essentially in a victim state, right? Where our parents have to like us in order to take care of us. And whatever it is that society is saying to our parents, whatever beliefs our parents are carrying, whatever this mindset was passed down to them as to what is correct and a good way to be. Yes? What gets you accepted in society? This, again, right? Think about this. This all ties in together. That this acceptance of society comes from this root that if your caretakers don't approve of you, you will die. Okay? That if the people in the tribe don't approve of you, you'll get kicked out of the tribe and you die. You can't survive on your own. This is the main trauma. So whether we want to look at this like something that's been passed down evolutionarily, or it's something that, like, literally every single one of us has an experience of in our own physical lives in this lifetime, not even like a past life, in this lifetime, you have experienced being completely dependent upon the love and approval of someone outside of you for your survival. It doesn't matter, right? So we learn that there are rules and there are customs that get us accepted, and we must follow those rules and those customs in order to survive. Because if the parent or the caregiver or the tribe or whatever you want to label this as decides that you're not good, that it's not okay that you are the way that you are, that you're a threat to the survival of the tribe, you getting kicked out means you die. You getting abandoned, you getting rejected means you die. So we all have this fundamental fear of death that is tied into our fear of not being accepted, okay? At the same time, because the human mind is still in a very primitive state, okay? We are still operating mostly from fear, okay, which is that brainstem, reptilian, fight or flight. I don't actually understand how things work, so I'm looking to make things simple. I'm looking to isolate. I'm looking to make things predictable and the same so that I don't have to think about it, so that things can be automatic. Because again, as we're growing as humans, life is complex. And so even way back when we didn't have the mind capacity, the mental capacity to predict patterns and to understand how things worked and to understand complexity. Yes? Remember that the human mind developed over time. We weren't given this operating system and knowing how to use it all at once. We developed it over time. So we can watch as humanity did this, right? We went from little tribes that were very superstitious because they didn't understand how weather worked, they didn't understand whatever, so of course they just projected their own human nature onto weather, praised it, gave it what they would have wanted, and thought if we give sacrifices and praise it and worship it and all these things, it's going to bless us. Yes, superstition, which then turned into more complex stories, which we now call religion, but it's essentially the same thing, right? And in this, we started to get government, right? So the tribal leaders turned into the kings and queens, turned into democracy. It's all the same stuff. It's all been passed along, right? And what we've been doing is basically saying, okay, we are all different from one another. So that was the first thing. And the reptilian brain says that anything that's different from me is a threat to my survival because there isn't enough for everybody. Yes, this is all rooted in survival. So we're looking and we're seeing that truly, as advanced as we have become, we are still operating from a survivalist mentality, okay, which is very fight or flight, very rudimentary, very fear-based, as in lack of understanding based, yeah? So with this idea that anything that's different from me can be a threat to me if I can't predict it, yes, and that makes perfect sense. If we understand that the weather was different than me and if we can't predict it, it can take me out. Animals are different from me. If I can't predict it, they're going to take me out. My tribe, if I can't predict what everyone is going to do, if not everyone is following the customs and the orders and the rules, right? If we can't be all together and knowing what the rules and the structure are so that no one attacks anybody, no one decides that they want more for themselves than someone else has, and they're going to just cut your head off to get it. You see what I mean? This was the threat. Everyone and everything was a threat. And as we have evolved throughout time, we haven't actually evolved out of this, okay? The human mind still sees anything different from itself as a threat. We are still acting like anyone who doesn't align with the customs and the way that we were raised to be as what is good and right, yes, is a threat to me. And again, what I'm saying is, if we really look at this, what we have all deemed in each of our individual perspectives as what is being good and right is not actually because we want to be virtuous. It's not that we're really looking to be good, okay? We're looking to survive because being good and surviving are the same thing to us, right? This is why religion is still such a big thing. This is why government is still such a huge thing. This is why people don't want to take responsibility for themselves. This is part of the reason why everyone hates themselves so much, because we have this correlation of being the same and fitting the customs, equaling being good, equaling survival, okay? That if we're going to get rejected, if we're going to get cut out of the tribe, it's because we were bad. And being bad simply means you are now a threat to the survival of the tribe, okay? So fast forward to your childhood. Anything that you did that your parents deemed bad, your caregivers deemed bad, okay, was coming from a root in their own brain that if you act like this, you're going to get kicked out of the tribe. You're not going to get accepted. You cannot be this way because this is not what is approved of. And if that is how you're going to be, you're going to get kicked out of society, you're going to get kicked out of the tribe, and you're not going to get taken care of, and you're going to die. Okay? So parents are now projecting onto their children, you have to be this particular way. Sometimes based on my own preference, right? Like literally this is what I was raised to believe is good, and I'm so indoctrinated, just like everyone else, into this goodness being survival. So if my child acts out of alignment with this, they're gonna die. So reprimand them, scold them, teach them how to be like a part of the tribe. Okay? So we are seeing how this being the same and anything that's different, right? Why our parents react the way that they do. Don't do that, don't be that, put your head back down, be like how the family is. The reason we have this, the reason we have these customs, the reason we have these cultural dictates, the reason we have the laws, the reason we have all of these things is because it was an attempt at creating order where we didn't understand how things worked and we weren't complex enough to understand that every single individual is different and has something different to offer, and that doesn't mean that they're a threat, okay? It doesn't have to mean that we are all the same in order for us to be predictable and in order for us to be safe. That's where this all comes from, okay? Is this idea that if we're all predictable, if we're all following the customs, if we're all following the rules, if we're all agreeing upon this is how reality works and this is what we do, that we're safe, that we're not a threat, that the people around us aren't a threat because we can predict what they're going to do because they're going to follow the custom just like we're going to follow the custom. And now we're all safe and everyone gets to survive. And if someone goes and does something different, that could very much mean that they're getting ready to take my wife and cut my head off and make it so that I die. So this is where this all actually roots from, okay? That we are still acting from a primitive fear-based place that says anything that is different from me is a threat to me because I can't predict it and it might take the resources that I need to live. So we all want to be the same. We all want to fit into custom. We all want to fit into culture. We all want to repeat the patterns that our parents gave us. Because to us, that is one and the same with survival. Because that is fitting in, and fitting in means you don't get kicked out, people don't see you as a threat, and then you get resources. That's literally where this comes from, okay? So every single one of us has been trained on some level from the first 1 to 7 years where we're in a hypnotic state. This is what is good, this is what is bad, this is what is right, this is what is wrong. These are the customs of my particular tribe. And it is following these customs that enables me to survive, okay? Now, because every single one of us is a unique individual, okay? And this is how this works. We were all born into families that have specific ideas about what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. And that's how your family has been surviving, probably for generations, okay? So this is where the idea of generational sin comes in. Sin simply means missing the mark, okay? It's an archery term. That means you aimed at a specific thing and you missed it, okay? So I want you to think of this like each and every single one of us has a blueprint in our DNA, in our way of being, in our, right? We are all unique individuals and everything about you that makes you the one singularity that you are. Okay? You came here to express that. That would be hitting the mark. Anytime you reject a part of yourself, anytime you go with the custom that is opposing who you are, that is a sin. That's missing the mark. Okay? We sin against ourselves. There is no sin against God. There is no sin against the universe. There is no punishment from outside of yourself. And you really need to understand this. We sin against ourselves only. When we accept culture and custom and what we were hypnotically trained to believe is right and wrong, yes? When we take that over what is authentic to ourselves. Okay? Now, I really want, okay, so now we're going to go into why you hate yourself and how this all works out, okay? So like I say, each one of us were born into a family that has customs, that has belief systems. And I'm going to tell you about this as we go along, that they believe are what make them good, what get their needs met, and for all of us, it's not in alignment with truth, okay? It's very rare. I don't know that there are very many families on the planet who are living in such a high level of consciousness that they're raising their children to be allowed to be themselves. Because again, we have adopted that what is right is to be accepted by culture. So all of us have parents that have a specific way of this is how we live so as to be accepted so that we can survive, all right? And then because each one of us are a unique individual, we are all going to at some point start to express something, some characteristic, some desire, some expression that is out of alignment with that. Every single one of us at some point is going to start to express something that doesn't align with the customs of the culture that our caregivers and our culture has decided are how we stay predictable and how we stay safe so that we're accepted by the tribe. Okay? We all start to show that. And what is going to happen is our parents are going to look at that and without even thinking for most of the time, okay? This is why we cannot blame our parents and we can't say that they're bad people or anything like this because again, this is generational sin. This has been passed down since the beginning of humanity. Your parents are going to instinctively say, your caregivers, your culture, whoever is influencing you, is going to instinctively punish you for that behavior. They are going to instinctively punish you for that behavior, thinking they're saving your life. Okay? And this is why this is so primitive. Yeah? Is they are rejecting who you are. They're rejecting this thing that you are presenting as this is who I am that doesn't align with culture. Because in their mind, in their heart, in their being, they see that as a threat. So now sometimes parents literally see their children as a threat. Like, you are a threat to me, okay? And sometimes it's, I care so much about my child, I see that you are going to be threatened if you act like this. And so either way, you have to stop. They get disciplined to not be, we all get disciplined to not be who we are. And when this happens, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to say, holy shit, yeah, if I am this way and mommy disciplines me, daddy disciplines me, caregiver disciplines me, whoever, they can take away my resources, right? If I am not accepted, if mommy pulls away, if daddy pulls away, whatever, I am at a loss for providing for myself. So we have this trauma. Every single one of us has this trauma that we were expressing who we were. Our parents rejected it, and there was a survival instinct that was activated inside of us that said, okay, if I do that, I don't get my needs met, and I will die. So I need to do whatever it takes to become the person that they want me to become so that I can survive. And this is what sets us up for the rest of our lives. This is how we start developing coping mechanisms. This is how we start to develop self-sabotaging behaviors, addictions. This is how we start to lose touch with who we are. Because we are trained from very, very young, 1, 2, 3 years old, that who we are is fundamentally at odds with our survival. Okay? And we really need to think about how traumatizing that is and why this self-love path is so hard. Because right now, we all are wired, like subconsciously, to believe that who and what we are is a threat to survival. Okay? And that threat is to the human being what evil is. All right? That's our definition of evil. Our definition of evil is anything that threatens my capacity to survive, to thrive, and to live my life. Because as a living being, we want to live. We want to thrive. We want to express. All right? So now we literally have this idea that there's something inside of me that is preventing me from living, that is preventing me from the task of life, which is to express myself. Okay? But at the same time, that very thing that you think is blocking you from being able to live is the thing you came to express. You see how this works? The thing that you got rejected for is what you came to express. The thing that you got rejected for is what you came to express. It's the unique individual thing about you that is different than everybody else, that makes you a singularity. It is what you came here to express. That is where fulfillment and joy and alignment and all of these amazing things that we want in life is going to come from. You being that. But you were trained from literally almost the beginning of your life that that exact thing is what's evil about you, is what's going to get you rejected from the tribe and get you killed, so you must get rid of it. Do you see why we are all insane? The thing that is enabling our survival, which is our individuality, that thing we came to express, that is what enables us to be on a life-generating path, to be generating new information. So remember this, yes? In order to be learning, growing, changing, evolving, expanding, we have to be in a state of love, which is simply a state of allowing for more information, change. Not predictable, not how things have always been, not what it already is. Evolution is building on what already is. It's changing the status quo. It's expressing something that's never been expressed before. That's how we survive. That's how we live. That's how we keep learning. That's how we keep surviving in truth, in real reality. But we now all have this story that if I'm different, if I do something different, if I'm not predictable, if I'm not how everyone wants me to be, I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe and I'm going to die. So get rid of all the parts of me that actually enable me to live. You see? This is crazy. We believe the part of ourselves that is here to learn, grow, change, evolve, and expand humanity is the part that makes us evil. The part that makes us evil, the part that makes us gonna die. It's what's gonna kill us. Okay? So we literally have this duality inside of ourselves. And this is where all the myth comes from. All the good and evil, all the good and bad, all the right and wrong, all the da-da-da-da-da. It's every single human facing this inside themselves. That we had these roots, that if we could just predict each other, we'll be safe. And anything that's outside of that is what is evil. But really, the truth is, what enables us to live is diversity. Each individual being their individual self. That is what generates life. Evolution, growth, and expansion. So we're fighting with ourselves. We're fighting with ourselves. We have this part that knows it needs to express, and that's what's going to keep us alive. And at the same time, that exact part is what we believe to be evil about ourselves, because we think it's going to get us rejected from the tribe, and then we're going to die. And we want to live. We want to survive. So it's really, truly a fight for survival. And that's why I'm saying this is quite primitive. Okay? So we wonder where our self-sabotaging behaviors come from. Well, this is where they come from. We are self-sabotaging. We are literally at the same time trying to express ourselves and believing that what it is that we have to express makes us evil, aka is a threat to our survival because other people don't like it, and therefore we have to get rid of it. So we're trying to express, but at the same time we don't want to express because that's what's going to get us kicked out of the tribe, and so we are constantly at war with ourselves. Yes? And so we develop eating disorders and drinking and addictions and all of these things because it's coming from, I have this thing I want to express, but I believe that if I express this, I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe, and that makes me evil, that makes me wrong, that makes me bad, because then I'm a threat to everyone else. And I don't want to be a threat to everyone else. I don't want everyone to see me as a threat. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to get kicked out. I want to be part of the tribe, because if I get kicked out, I'm going to die. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do to suppress this part of myself. And so, again, this is why self-love is so hard. Because for all of us right now, we rejected the genuine parts of who and what we are so long ago that it is so buried deep down inside of us, most of us do not have access to the genuine part of ourselves that we're trying to get rid of. Okay? No one, very few people are probably going to be able to watch this video and be like, yes, it's this thing in me that I've been trying to get rid of this whole time, okay? All you have right now to go on are your self-sabotaging behaviors, your addictions, and your coping mechanisms. The way you're going to figure out who and what you are, what you came here to express, is through loving and embracing and making room for your self-sabotaging behaviors, your addictions, and your coping mechanisms. Why? Because again, these are the symptoms of this part of you that has been cut off from life generation. Okay, so think of it like a plant. Any part of life, that is not growing, that's not being given what it needs to grow, is going to start to decompose. Why? Because if anything is not growing, it's not generating new information, it's not a part of life, what we want to do is liberate the energy that's animating that physical matter from the physical matter so that the physical matter can be reset, the spirit that's animating it can be reset, and life can start again. That's why decomposition happens. Things break down to liberate energy, to liberate matter, so they can separate, get reset, and then hopefully get on a life-generating cycle in a new way. So any part of the self that's been rejected is like a part of a plant that's been cut off from life. It's going to start to decompose. It's going to start to rot. It's going to start to act, behave, express in less than optimal ways. So we develop our addictions, we develop our coping mechanisms, we develop our self-sabotaging behaviors as pseudo need meters. That's what this is, okay? Because we can't ever actually get rid of a part of ourselves. We reject a part of ourselves, it doesn't go anywhere. What it starts to do is it starts to decompose. It starts to decompose us, right? So now we start to use food or alcohol or relationships or all these kind of other dramas in our lives as ways of getting our approval needs met, okay? As ways of getting our expression need met in a way that's far less intelligent and more socially acceptable than being our true selves would be. Okay? So I'm going to give you an example from my own life, right? My biggest thing that was bad and wrong about me, according to my culture, was that I point out the root cause of things and have no capacity to be okay when things are out of alignment. And essentially, right, the code of my family was nothing is wrong until someone says something about it. If we can all just act like everything's fine, everything is fine. There isn't a problem until it's talked about or brought to the surface or uncovered. And the best thing we can do is just keep your head down, bury it down, cope, get through it, don't talk about it, don't look at it, don't bring it up, just learn to deal with it, okay? And so obviously me being the way that I am, where I have no capacity to do that at all, I'm constantly like, this is wrong. So I learned early on that this massive emotional response that I have to misalignment is what's evil about me, right? So I try to get rid of it. I do everything that I can to start to be a chill, cool, normal girl. And it doesn't work. I'm not able to do it. So I spend the first 16 years of my life constantly being this emotional barometer that's getting rejected all the time and just hating myself, just crying all the time, just thinking like, what the heck is wrong with me? Why can't I just be okay? Why do I always have to bring everything up? It is my fault that all of these things are happening. So first I'm getting indoctrinated that, right, I'm the cause of these problems because I'm bringing them up. They didn't exist until I said something, right? Alcohol was good for you until I said, hey, you're probably getting sick because you're drinking so much. And then it's like, you made alcohol bad and I wasn't sick until you said it, right? So I start to take this on. And then eventually I'm like, okay, the only way that I can actually stop myself from reacting so strongly to everyone else is to completely turn in on myself. And this is how I developed an eating disorder. Yeah? It was my way of still expressing, right? Like when you got an eating disorder, you're not subtle. You're not invisible. You're like the loudest thing in the room, right? So I'm like sending out these alarm bells. Like, look at me. I'm clearly not okay. And because this is not okay, right? So I'm getting my need met to express that this is all not okay in a way that's against myself, right? I'm starving myself. I'm hurting myself in order to get my need met of I need to express that this is not okay, that there are things that are out of alignment. But I'm doing it in a semi-socially acceptable way, right? I didn't get as rejected being anorexic as I did being the emotional barometer for the household. So my self-sabotaging behavior was my little way of working around this part of me that was rotting. I was trying not to express that things are wrong. Yes? But I couldn't not do that because that's a part of who I am. So it started to rot. It started to express in an unhealthy way. It was the same thing. It was my capacity and my ability to see this is what's wrong and this is what needs to be done about it. That nobody wants to hear that, right? Because we live in a culture right now that celebrates the victim, that we are victims to our world and that anything that's happening to us is happening to us, right? Where I was always like, hey, your suffering is your fault, essentially. That was like my message, that it was like, there's something you can do about it. That was my message. There's something you can do about it. Hey, if you just realize what's going wrong and you can change yourself, you'll stop suffering. But because we live in this world where we don't want to believe that our suffering is our fault, yeah, that's all people heard when I would talk to them. So they would get mad at me. And so again, I'm figuring out some way of expressing that things are wrong without expressing it that way. And that's how anorexia happened. Okay? So, but by the time I'm anorexic, I don't have access to the idea that the part of me that's being rejected and the part of me that I'm rejecting is this part of me that's the whistleblower. I didn't know that. I didn't have any awareness of that. All I knew was that I had this self-sabotaging behavior. I had this thing that was bad and wrong and evil about me, and it was the eating disorder. And so as much as I tried to fight with getting rid of my eating disorder, I never could because that was my coping mechanism. That's how I was living. Without anorexia, I would have died. This is how we need to understand this. Anorexia actually saved my life. It was my way of expressing myself at least a little bit. It was a decomposed way, and it was decomposing me, and it was gonna eventually kill me, right? But it was keeping me alive long enough to at least continue to express. If I had been able to completely shut up, I think I would have died. I spent a year on the couch, not saying anything, and that was the sickest I'd ever been physically. I was sicker then than I was when I was anorexic. Okay? I really truly believed if I had really been able to shut up, I would have died. And this is why none of us ever get rid of our coping mechanisms. None of us get rid of our self-sabotaging behaviors, and none of us get rid of our addictions. Because they are our way of sort of meeting the need that we have to express who and what we are without fully doing it. We're doing it in a more culturally appropriate way. We're making ourselves victims. We're making ourselves look weak and poor. We're becoming less intimidating for others, and that's why we keep up with our self-sabotaging behaviors. And so this is why self-love is the hardest thing you're ever going to do. Because true self-love requires that you look at all these parts of yourself that you believe are evil. First, starting with your self-sabotaging behaviors, your addictions, and your coping mechanisms. So everything you think is wrong with you. Everything you think is the thing that you're trying to fix. Everything that you think you're trying to get rid of, and you'll be this awesome person when you don't have this anymore. Those are the things you have to start to love first. Those are the things you have to start to love first. You have to start to make room for those things first. You start to say, what is this doing for me? How is this behavior helping me? How is this behavior keeping me alive? What am I expressing through this? What need am I getting met through this that I don't know how to get met any other way? And it's going to be difficult to face this because, again, it's completely opposed to everything you ever for your whole life to be what is good and bad and what is right and wrong. And it's a complete shifting of like, no, your self-sabotaging behaviors, your coping mechanisms, everything you think is wrong with you is actually the thing that's keeping you alive right now. It's not what's wrong with you. It's what's right with you. Okay, so that's the first thing. And we're going to do that for a long time. It's not going to be overnight because we have so much resistance and so much indoctrination and so much belief system around these things that this is what's wrong with us. That to really get to the core of like, okay, no, I completely love and accept you. What are you doing? How are you helping me? What are you actually here for? Okay? Because again, the answer we're going to get is going to be that you are that evil person that you are scared that you are. Right? So all of this led me to eventually realizing I am this evil person. Right? Evil being, I am the one who cannot be okay when things are out of alignment. And I have to say something about it. And that makes people upset. And that gets me kicked out of the tribe. And therefore, I am evil. It is true. Do you see how this works? It is true. You are the evil person that you think that you are. You absolutely are the evil person that you think that you are. However, what you think is evil isn't. And what you think is good isn't. The real truth is, what you think is evil about you is what you came here to do to evolve society. What you think is good about you, for the most part, is what you have taken on as a facade to get accepted so you don't get kicked out of the tribe. Your definitions of good and evil are completely messed up. And this is why you hate yourself. Because you think the fundamental thing about you, the fundamental things about you that you came to do, to change culture, to change and evolve humanity, are what make you evil, what make you bad, what make you wrong, what make other people uncomfortable, because it does. Okay? So the real root here is this. Every single one of us is here, first and foremost, to evolve the primitive mindset of the human. We are here to love and embrace what makes us evil, to express what makes us evil. And watch, again, I'm going to say this too, okay? If you're sitting there right now saying like, no, my thing is actually evil, right? Like my thing actually drives me to do terrible things. Yes, everyone thinks that. And I tried to explain that with my story. Yes? It would have been evil for me to be, or it would have been easy for me to be like, no, no, no. I really actually am messed up. Look, anorexia is killing me. This part of me that I'm being told by me that I need to love is what's killing me. If I just indulge this, if I just say, okay, anorexia, you never have to leave. I love you. I accept you. I embrace you. She's going to kill me. We all think that. So whatever you're thinking right now, right? No, my thing is actually bad. My thing actually causes destruction. My thing is actually killing me or making other people hate me. Or if when I expressed that, people didn't like me. Yes. I know. You're not unique. You're not different. Every single one of us has that story. We all think that our thing is the thing that if we actually embrace it, we will die. And everyone will hate us. It's not different. Every single one of us has that. And we all have this story that if we truly embrace who we are going to be awful. We're going to cause destruction. We're going to hurt people. We're going to make this world a worse place. We all have that indoctrination. So that's why I'm telling you. You believe that you're evil. And you're going to have all of this stuff that comes up and says, but look at the evidence, Allie. Look at the evidence. I overspend. I'm doing these terrible things in my relationship over and over again. I'm codependent. I'm narcissistic. I'm evil. I'm mean. I don't care about people. I'm selfish. I'm killing myself. I'm killing other people. I want to kill other people. Blah, blah. Yeah, I know. Okay? So this path is about first understanding we are going to go inside and we are going to look at these parts of ourselves with love and compassion. It doesn't mean we act on it, okay? So my thing was, I started with, anorexia, I love you, but I'm not going to act on what you want me to do anymore. I'm not going to not eat today. I'm not going to go for that extra walk. I'm not going to sit there and pinch my fat. I hear you. I hear you wanting me to do those things. I hear you wanting me to, and I hear you. And I'm going to sit with you. And I'm going to say, what do you really want? What do you really need? How are you helping me? This is how we do this, okay? So it's not, I just completely embrace my self-sabotaging behaviors and act them out and just let that be and hope that I'm going to find something. No. We embrace them internally. We say, okay, I'm not going to do it. And if I do act on it, I'm still going to be present with myself as I'm acting on it. I'm going to watch how I want to label myself as evil and bad and wrong and stupid and look at what I'm doing. I'm going to watch how I want to beat myself up after, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to have compassion for myself. This is why this is so hard. So hard. You're going to have compassion for the one that wants to hurt you. I know, it's a lot. And you're going to believe that you're the one, that if you loved who you really are, you are going to turn into an evil tyrant. Okay? Everyone believes that about themselves. Everyone believes that. We truly believe that if we actually let ourselves be who we are going to turn into that worst nightmare who makes this world a worse place. And what I'm going to say to you is, it's true and it's not true. You are going to turn into your worst nightmare. But if you're doing it from a place of self-love, you're going to realize it's your gift to humanity. And it may not be what humanity thinks it wants right now, but it's what humanity needs. Okay, so for me, stepping into this, who I really am, I call shit out. I say, yeah, no, your problem isn't happening to you. There's something going on in your reality that you have control over, that you can change. And so you don't have to suffer like this anymore. And I know to you, it sounds like I'm saying your problem is your fault. And the thing is, it is. But it's not wrong that your problem is your fault. This is what we are all here to do. We're all here to make our own problems so that we can solve them. We're literally, our problems are our way of figuring out how reality works. It's how we tune our focus to the specific parts of reality that we need to understand in order to express what we came here to express. That's what our problems are. Okay, so I'm going to say it again. Your problems are how your awareness is tuning itself to the specific parts of reality that you need to understand so that you can express how you came here to express. Because there's a lot of reality. And if your mind was just looking at all of it, you'd never be able to do anything. Because you're specific. You need something to make things specific. You need something to narrow in your focus. And that's what your problems are. Your problems narrow in your focus. Okay? So your problems are not your fault. Your problems are what you're here to learn so that you can express what you came here to express. Your self-sabotaging behaviors is the part of you that's trying to get rid of the part of you that came here to express. Your addictions are how you're getting your needs met in a way that you know how to get them met. Okay? That's all an addiction is. You have a need to express something, to have something, to want something that, again, you were taught was evil. So now you're expressing it in a rotting way. That's all an addiction is. It's getting the need met almost. So you're addicted to it because it didn't fully scratch the itch. Right? You learned, I'm not allowed to ask for love, but I can drink. I'm not allowed to ask for alone time, but I can smoke. Right? So I'm sort of getting the need met, but if I were to ask for alone time, that makes me evil. So I can't do that. So I'm just going to keep smoking. Right? Because smoking gives me a reason to be outside alone. It's very easy. That's all addiction is. It's something that's meeting a need we don't know how to ask. Okay? So overarchingly, we are all here to embrace these parts of ourselves that we think are evil, to express the parts of ourselves that we think are evil, to allow ourselves to be rejected for these parts, because this is what is going to happen. I promise you, you're going to lose relationships. People are not going to like you. You are going to face the fear that you being who you are is going to get you rejected. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then you're going to realize you don't die. You're going to get rejected. You're going to know you're going to get rejected. You're going to get rejected mindfully. Okay? Because right now we're still all being rejected. Because we're not able to get rid of who and what we are. We can act like it for a little while. We can do what we're supposed to do for a little while. And then something comes up. We self-sabotage. We get an addiction. We and we sort of get accepted and we sort of get rejected. We're all getting rejected all the time. But when you mindfully get rejected, when you say, okay, I'm going to embrace this thing about me that everyone else thinks is shit. And I'm going to do it. And I get rejected. And then you realize, hey, I didn't die. Then you start to move towards liberation. You start to move towards being able to actually love and accept who and what you are. And you will reveal more and more and more of yourself to yourself this way. Okay, so this is why I'm saying, again, this is a long process. Because who and what you are is buried under years and years and years and years and years of conditioning and coping mechanisms and self-sabotaging behaviors and ways that you've been sort of doing it and sneakily doing it and sort of getting the need met and not fully doing it and rejecting yourself. And it's so automatic to reject this part of you now that you do the coping mechanism before you even realize what you're doing. Okay, so this awareness is going to be years. You're not going to sit in meditation a couple of times and be like, oh, this is who I am, and I'm just going to do that now. No. It's going to be a long time. It's going to be hard. Because, again, you are going to come face to face with the thing you think makes you evil, and you're going to realize that that is who you are. That is who you are. And you have to be that if you want to live. And that a lot of the world is going to look at you and think you're evil for doing this. You're going to get rejected. And you have to do it anyways. And then you do it. And then you express. And then you realize you don't die. And you start to move towards liberation. And I promise you this. You will become more and more and more actually benevolent. You are going to start to see how the culture that is telling you what is right and wrong, good and bad, evil and benevolent, is totally backwards. You're going to start to see how all of your seemingly good behaviors were actually enabling destruction. And all of your seemingly bad behaviors were actually enabling growth. You're going to start to see. This is why people feel like they go crazy on the awakening path. Because it's like, holy shit, how is it possible that culture has everything so backwards? Well, because it's all coming from fear. It's all coming from trying to create predictability and sameness where it doesn't exist in reality. Right? That is the fundamental flaw in the human mind. The fundamental trauma. That there needs to be this sameness, this consistency, in order for us to understand and survive things. We need to evolve that. That we are here to be much more complex than that. That reality is much more complex than that. And we can understand it. We can understand complex things. Just like a baby. When they first learn how to crawl, it's incredibly frustrating because it's very complex. It's much more complex than laying around. But they don't sit around and say, well, reality is against me. I can't do it. It's so complex. Let's try and simplify crawling. Let's try and get rid of aspects of crawling and just use my arms. No. The baby becomes complex enough to crawl. And then all of a sudden crawling is easy. And then they look at walking and that's really complex. But you eventually learn how to walk. You become more complex. So this is what we need to do in reality. When we face things that we don't understand, when we face things that are challenging, when we face things that don't make sense to us, don't try to simplify it. Make yourself more complex so that you can understand it. This is the point. We're supposed to evolve. Don't go into fear brain that says, make this simple. This has to be predictable some way. This has to fit into my reality of how reality already works according to me. When we don't understand something, we need to start saying, this is a part of reality I don't understand. It doesn't fit into my box. I need to become more complex in order to understand what just happened. It's me that needs to change, not reality. Okay? That's the fundamental misunderstanding that we as humans all have. We believe that we can change reality. We believe that we can convince each other enough that if everyone agrees that this diet is good for us, it will be. And if we isolate for enough variables and isolate for enough things, it's healthy. But in reality, when it doesn't work out, we ignore that because we want it to be simple. It's not. Become more complex. We need to become more complex. So in embracing who and what you are, which is what you've been taught is evil right now, you evolve humanity past its primitive mindset that says acceptance and survival are one. That is your main goal. That's what we're all here to do. We're here to stop being reptilian, which says sameness and predictability is safety and survival. We need to start to understand that no, innovation and diversity is thriving. That's what keeps us going. That initial 7-year trauma is what we all need to evolve within ourselves. We have to face the fear of being ourselves and getting rejected and seeing that we don't die. That's what's going to liberate you. That's what's going to help you understand who and what you are and what you came here to do. And then what you express from there is icing on the cake. That's going to be your life for the rest of your life. It's just this continual evolution, this continual discovery of who you are and what you came to do. Because it's just going to keep evolving. It's not going to be this stagnant thing. And that's why it's more complex than that. You're not going to discover it one day and then do it and then be good. Because everything you do is going to build the foundations for the next thing that you're going to do. You're going to do this over and over and over and over and over again. You're going to have 1 million lives and 1 million deaths when you're truly living the self-love path. Because every time you discover something about yourself and you express it, again, that's going to just be the foundation for the next thing you're going to discover about yourself and then want to express. It's just going to be this continual birthing. And this is how you stay alive. This is how you thrive. By continually birthing yourself. Because if you're always birthing yourself, you're not dying. You're not decomposing. You're not self-destructing, right? And if you're not continually birthing yourself, you are. You're rotting. The parts of you that are not being allowed to grow are rotting. And they're rotting so that that energy that is animating your body can be liberated. It literally is physically killing you, not to be yourself. That's what's happening. And it's happening on a physical level. If your body is diseased, right? There's a part of you that's not being expressed. It's rotting. That's what this is. So you are going to have to face that you are the evil person you think that you are. You're going to have to embrace that and all the scary things and all the scary stories that you're going to be this like crazy maniacal person who just murders everyone and goes to prison or whatever fear you have about yourself. You have to face it. You have to say, okay, if that is truly who I am, okay, let's see what happens. And I know that's scary and I know it's radical, but this is what it is. This is the path. And I promise you, you're not. That's rot. Wanting to kill each other is rot. Wanting to hurt other people is rot. You will become actually benevolent the second you start to actually love yourself. And you will discover that, again, all the benevolent things you thought you were doing probably weren't benevolent. And all the evil things you thought you were doing probably are actually benevolent in the sense that they generate life. So remember, evil is simply what we deem to be is what's killing us, and we have that completely backwards. All right? So this is why you hate yourself. This is why self-love is the only way. This is why self-love is the scariest thing you'll ever have to do. This is why you have to love your self-sabotaging behaviors, your addictions, and everything that you think is wrong with you. This is why you have to start to become okay with getting rejected and being yourself anyways, and watching that who you really are will come from that. All the evil stuff about you isn't evil. And you'll see it, but you have to try. All right, so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you whenever I see you. Mwah.